Welcome to the United States of Paranormal Podcast. Sit down and buckle up for an enlightening ride through everything cryptid, creepy, and paranormal.
Hello, all of my paranormal freaks out there. It is I, Golden J, with
The Rocker Chick
and
J-Dub.
And today we have a very special guest. J-Dub, who's with us?
I hate you. Peter.
Are you going to say his last name?
I'm sorry. I forget already. I have short-term memory.
Frejkowski. Was that right?
Yep.
Yay.
There you go. You know, the reason I put her on spot is because I forgot too. But Peter, thank you so much for joining us today. I've been looking forward to meeting you since you emailed into the show, and we've been kind of going back and forth. You got some really cool things going on out there in Pennsylvania, and we are excited to talk to you about those things. But first, we've got to do it in Team Boozer style. Rocker Chick, what do you got for me?
My paper fell.
Oh, for shit's sake. This is the shit show.
That's what you have editing for. Okay, so let me ask you this. What song would you like to enter a room to always?
Oh,
Oh
my God.
I think that's simple for me. I'm gonna go with "You're So Beautiful" by Flicker Stick.
oh wow, really?
I have all this.
Does it have to be a whole song? Or
I'm
can it
gonna
just be
go
like a
with
bit?
"He's So Vain."
Yeah. But can it just be like the snippets of a song, or does it have to be the whole song?
What would it be like for you? Walk in, all of a sudden you hear, "I'm sexy and I know it."
No, I'd be like, hello? Is it me you're looking for?
Well,
Every time you walk into
Yeah.
a room.
Hello? Is it me you're looking for?
okay, that's
Oh,
that's
that
pretty
works.
great. I like that. All right, Rocker Chick, what do you got?
I have actually got "Not Your Bitch" by Naked Beggar.
Oh. All right, Peter, what do you got?
How about the Imperial March from Star Wars?
That's a good one.
So good. Okay, so everybody's gonna have these songs on their phones from now on, and so as they walk into a room, they just hit
Does it
play.
Okay. Got
So
it.
after you do your intro, you have to play your song, and then you introduce Rocker Chick. She plays her, little snippet, and then I do my hello. Is it me you're looking for?
I think definitely we need to leave your singing in on that. I think that's
Oh, yeah.
No,
Please
no.
do. Please do.
oh, I that's pretty great. That's actually a really good song. So, yeah, I think that's a pretty good question. I like it.
That
Yeah,
question.
I liked it.
All right.
All right,
I feel good about that.
Imperial March. Why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, that's pretty like. Look at me, confident.
It is. It's very confident.
Yeah.
Peter, when you walk through a automatic door, do you force it? Do you give it the force? Because I'd love to do that.
I don't, but my son Luke does sometimes.
Ah, Luke.
Nice.
Nice.
I do it, and then I walk a little bit, and then I turn around to see if anybody was watching me. Like
Like,
door opens. Your timing has to be impeccable, let me tell you. All right, well, let's get to Peter's story and what we've been me and him have been kind of going back and forth on. Let's start off now. Peter, you are in Pennsylvania. Are you in Chestnut Ridge?
I'm not. I'm about an hour from Chestnut Ridge is where I currently reside.
Okay.
I'm in the same county, but it's about an hour away.
Now, how far are you from Kecksburg?
Kecksburg.
Yeah.
Kecksburg, about the same.
And that's where our story is going to start.
Right. That's where we're going to start. We're going to talk about Kecksburg and the Chestnut Ridge. They're in the same county, about 30 miles apart. And most of this takes place, generally speaking, about 55 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. So that kind of gives you, most people, you're either close to Pittsburgh or close to Philadelphia. So we're about 55 miles southeast of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And again, predominantly talking about Westmoreland County, but this also bleeds into Fayette County, as well as a little bit of Cambria County. So when I talk about the Laurel Highlands, which is the area that encompasses Chestnut Ridge, the Laurel Highlands they're in the Allegheny Mountains, which the Allegheny Mountains are the western central part of the Appalachians.
Okay.
So that's, we're in Appalachia. We're talking about the western central part of the Appalachians, and that's going to be the Laurel Highlands, and then the Chestnut Ridge and the Laurel Highlands. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's where our story takes place. And as you said, we're going to kick it off in Kecksburg, which Kecksburg's kind of the Roswell of the East. Everybody in the country knows about Roswell.
Right.
Right.
Kecksburg is a little less well known, but pretty significant in the documentation that's been gathered. So what happened in Kecksburg is December 9th, 1965, a large fireball was seen by thousands of people. This isn't like one or two people or me and my buddy saw it. Thousands of people saw a fireball going across the sky. It's even reported that it dropped metal fragmentations in Michigan and Ohio that was recovered. And then once it got into Western Pennsylvania area, they heard a sonic boom, which, if anybody doesn't know, a sonic boom is when something exceeds the sound of the speed of sound.
Right. Yeah.
So this sonic boom is heard in Western Pennsylvania, and then this fireball is seen crashing into a wooded area in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. So, of course, small town, big excitement. Everybody goes to see what's going on. So they start looking to where the area that they saw this thing go down. Excuse me. And they find what was reported to be an acorn-shaped object the size of a Volkswagen Beetle.
Wow.
What's even more interesting is all of the very consistent in the eyewitness reports is that it had like hieroglyphic writing around the edges, so that kind of caught everybody off guard. Like, that doesn't look like a satellite. It's a big solid acorn, hieroglyphics written on it, no sign of an engine, any kind of propulsion, anything like that. They said within an hour or so, military personnel started showing up. Now, nobody says whether it's Army, Air Force, but military personnel start showing up and basically securing the area and backing people out of it, getting everybody back away from the scene. Now, there is one picture that I was able to find that's reportedly of the object.
An actual picture from that day?
Yeah. So, and it wasn't in any of the Pennsylvania newspapers or anything. It was actually in an Ohio paper that shows an acorn-shaped object, size of a Volkswagen Beetle, loaded onto a military-style truck. And that's the only photographic evidence I've ever been able to see, and that's available online. If you Google the Kecksburg UFO crash, you'll be able to find that newspaper article.
Now, did I thought I read that there was a one of the eyewitnesses who went down into the woods was a welder. Do you remember reading that? Because I thought that he had said that this acorn shape had no seams in it whatsoever. It was just like a solid piece, and as a welder, that's what he was looking for besides the hieroglyphics, but that there was no seams, no doors, no nothing on this thing. It was just a solid piece.
Yeah, I did read that it was smooth with no seams. I don't remember them saying he was a welder, but that would certainly make sense because he would have an eye for that.
Yeah.
So again, lots of eyewitness reports, one reported photo that's never been accused of being fake.
Right.
So the US immediately says, hey, everybody, this was a meteor. No big deal. Common everyday meteor. Of course, the residents in Kecksburg are like, no, that's
That was
Right.
not a meteor.
So then quickly the authorities changed to say, no, it was a Soviet satellite that was supposed to go out of orbit and go towards Venus, but never made it out of the Earth's orbit, and it crashed, which that certainly makes some sense. However, if you look at the photographs that are available of that Soviet satellite with the failed launch, does not match the description of what the eyewitnesses report, nor does it match that alleged photograph. So that didn't really carry water. The other theory that was out there, which is very interesting, is that it was a German military time machine experiment.
Oh.
Golden Jay, did you read anything about that?
No, I missed that part of that. I like time machines. How do you like that one, Colton?
So aside from this story, there is a lot of talk about this German military time machine experiment that was called the Bell. Now, it's never been proven to have existed, but it's a widely accepted theory that it did. So widely accepted that in 2018, Revell put out a model of it. So you could actually buy a model of this alleged military time machine, and they quickly pulled it from the shelves because they said they pulled it because it was a fictional craft that too many people thought was a historical craft.
Wow.
So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that Bell time machine theory is widely known and discussed, and there was some talk that this could have been what that craft was. Doesn't exactly match up if you look at the pictures, but there again, it's never been proven to exist, so we don't know exactly what it looked like. So that's an interesting theory.
Now, I didn't read anywhere that anybody had any idea what those hieroglyphs were either. They were kind of just like they thought they kind of look Egyptian or something along that lines, but nobody ever really dove into, I think the eyewitnesses anyway, of what they thought maybe they stood for, or if they'd ever seen anything later on, or if they went looking for them or anything.
Right. I found the same. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that it was reportedly whisked out of the area as quickly as possible. So there's a lot of eyewitnesses that report this thing was quickly loaded on a military flatbed, which is what that photograph indicated. And I know people that have told me, again, back in '65, I wasn't alive yet, but I do have some friends that were, that said, yep, we saw that tractor trailer coming down the highway escorted.
Yeah, because they didn't tarp it either. They just loaded it and drove it down the road, is what I understood.
From what I understand, and what the people that I've spoken to has said, by the time that it was out onto the highway, it was tarped.
Oh, okay.
So getting it out of the woods wasn't tarped, but then before they actually got out into the public eye, it was tarped.
Gotcha.
So nobody could say, yeah, I saw that acorn on a flatbed, but I've talked to people that said, yeah, I saw something, again, about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle tarped on a military truck with escort.
Right on. Gotcha.
So again, there's so many people that tell the exact same story that lend a lot of credit to this event.
Right. For sure. And they say that this is actually probably as big as Roswell as far as the crash and the military sweeping in and picking this up and all that.
Right. I think Roswell gets a lot more press, if you will, because there were bodies involved.
Right.
But, with this, we have an object. And like you said, there was no sign of a cockpit or occupants or anything like that. It was a sealed object with no door or anything of that nature that we know about.
Right.
Now, there was a Freedom of Information Act filed to get more information from NASA on because there were NASA officials seen at the scene. And NASA did come out with a report that said, yep, something did go down in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, but it was a satellite. It was a Russian satellite, so they went with that one. But when the Freedom for Information Act request was filed, NASA said we lost the report. We lost all the documentation.
Wow.
Of course.
To the point where, after exhausted attempts to find any information, and multiple agencies saying we cannot find any information on this, it is truly lost, they dropped the request for information. So, NASA has even gone so far as to say, look, we lose stuff. Like, there's Apollo stuff that we've lost. Like, we legitimately can't find these reports. So, take that for what you will, but apparently NASA loses stuff.
I'll tell you what, that makes me feel damn good about our space program is, well, we lost it, we sent a rocket up, but it'll come back. Hold on.
But I feel like I should remind everybody that this is just, information that I've been able to find, third party, fourth party. So it's not like I filed the Information Act and I talked to NASA. So I'm just
right.
Regurgitating what I've been able to find on, if it was on the internet, it must be true, right?
Everything on the internet is true, is what from my understanding. So
now,
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Also, I just wanted to mention, we did talk about Stan Gordon briefly. Stan's done a tremendous amount of work with this Chestnut Ridge stuff, UFO and Bigfoot, as well as paranormal and unexplained stuff throughout Pennsylvania. And also Eric Altman has a lot of information on that. I found his name time and time again as I was doing my online research on this stuff. Stan has a couple books that are very interesting that cover the topics. So I just wanted to kind of nod to those guys, not to lead anybody to think that I've done all this back, research. That those two guys have done a ton of work.
Well, I mean, let's talk about Stan in a second. Let's not leave Kecksburg just yet, because I want our listeners to know that they do a big festival there every year. About, what'd you say? It was December 9th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do they do the festival in December, or is it earlier in the season?
The festival occurs, I can't tell you the date, but it's warmer weather.
Right.
So they do hold a UFO festival in Kecksburg. There's actually a monument that is behind the Kecksburg Fire Department that mimics the shape and size of the alleged UFO. So they embrace it, and it's a quaint little town. If anybody's in the area, the Kecksburg UFO Festival is something that it's worth checking out.
I actually watched a couple YouTube videos and stuff on with little short, couple minute, where somebody is kind of walking around with a camera and showing all the vendors and the statue and all that stuff. So it looks like it'd be a cool little festival to go to if you're interested in making that. Well, for us, it'd be, it might be a little bit of a jaunt for us, but I've been out that way. If I'd have known it was there, I might have even stopped on my way back through, because I've been to Philly, so definitely would have headed down that direction to get some pictures with it. But it looks really cool, and I just want our listeners to know, if you're out that way, that it does happen. You can find it online. It is out there. So so let's get into Stan. And Stan Gordon actually it was alive at that time, and I remember he was really, really young. What was he? I want to say 13 or so, about the time that happened, right?
I believe you're right. I don't have his age at that time.
Teenager, though. He was he was young, but it caught his interest, and then basically that snowballed for Stan into a lot of things. 40 some years of researching UFOs and Bigfoot in that area. Can you tell me a little bit more I don't want to do like his whole backstory, of growing up and all that, but can you give me a little bit on what he's working on with the UFO to Bigfoot comparison or compilation or togetherness?
So again, we talked about this happening in 65, right? So, Stan becomes very interested in not only Bigfoot, but UFOs, and there's not really that correlation yet, but he's interested in all the things that we can't explain, right?
Right.
So in 1970, Stan puts together the Westmoreland County UFO Study Group. So that was kind of the first, at least in his world, the first organized collection of UFO data in Pennsylvania. Now, there may have well been other people that had other organizations, but this is the one I have knowledge of, is in 1970, the Westmoreland County UFO Study Group. So then, as we'll get into, things kind of pop off in 1973. The Westmoreland County UFO Study Group morphs into the Pennsylvania Center for UFO Research. And then in 1981, Stan spearheads another organization called the Pennsylvania Association for the Study of the Unexplained. So kind of broadens the scope of
Right.
what they're looking at.
Right.
Now, I had a friend whose dad I was very close with this guy, and his dad had talked to us a lot about around campfires, and obviously I won't mention anybody's names, but it's funny because it wasn't until years later that I made this connection. But my friend's dad was involved in law enforcement and had an interest in the paranormal and unexplained, and specifically Bigfoot, very interested in. And he was telling us one night, this was years and years ago, this was probably 92, 93. He was telling us about this group that he used to be involved in, that were all volunteers that would get called out by anybody from local law enforcement to the state police when they were investigating something that didn't make sense, that seemed paranormal. And he was telling me how, there were people from all different backgrounds. Some were historians, some were, engineers. And as I remembered this, reading the description of Stan's Center for UFO Research matched up exactly with what he was telling me. And he was saying this was long before, ghost hunters and all
Right.
the big, launch of all the reality shows. But unfortunately, he's not with us anymore, so I can't go back and say, was that Stan's group? But the next time I cross paths with Stan, I'm going to mention his name, because I really think that that's the group that my friend's dad was involved with. And he had some really interesting theories on Bigfoot, but I don't want to, get off track here.
Right on. Right on. Oh, Bigfoot.
Mhm.
I just, the correlation between, I love this idea, and I love it so much, because if you've listened to past episodes, that I believe that Bigfoot has access to portals and interdimensional travel. And when that theory was brought up to me, it just made so much sense to me that's why you can't find, a track stop or, things like that. But that's what Stan is really going towards, is that Bigfoot, and well, I guess to say, is an extraterrestrial and has that access to UFOs and stuff like that. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, and that's that. So again, we're going to talk about Bigfoot a little bit, and then we'll make the connection between the two. But what I had always kind of was under the impression that Bigfoot was more of a undiscovered species, kind of scarce, and people say, well, we would have found him by now. And if you really look at the woodland areas and uninhabited parts of the U.S., there's certainly ample room for an undiscovered native species.
Oh yeah.
But what the three theories that I've heard that I think make the most sense is one, it being a undiscovered, smart enough to stay away from a species. The other, like you talked about, kind of an interdimensional being that whether purposely or accidentally wanders in between dimensions.
Right.
That opens up a whole nother discussion, which is really interesting. And that's one of the theories that my buddy's dad lended a lot of credit to. Is he said, a lot of times when somebody reports a sighting, it's like it was there and then it was gone.
Right.
I don't know where it went. I didn't see it run away. It was there and then it was gone. So that kind of speaks to that, that overlap of dimensions, which, that's a really interesting topic when you start talking about, fourth and fifth and sixth dimensions.
Oh, yeah.
But then the other theory that I've heard that seems to make a little bit of sense is if you were an extraterrestrial race and you wanted to gather some information on this planet, you might look at, all right, this is the kind of topographical area that we're looking at. This is the climate. This is something that looks like it would probably belong there, because these sightings aren't in like the deep forest where nobody else is. It's a lot of times it's on the edge of the woods, and it's watching, it's looking in people's windows. So could this be somebody's best effort of making something that looks like it belongs here to gather information?
Right. That makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept too, but certainly nobody knows which one's right. So I'm sorry, so we talked about Stan and kind of and Stan still continues to investigate now and is still active in the paranormal community, still
Right.
does tons of interviews, written a couple books. One of the ones that I found very interesting is called Silent Invasion, and it's specifically on where that tie-in between the 73 occurrences, Bigfoot and UFOs comes together. It's very much a case book of documentations of things that were witnessed and information gathered.
Yeah, because he's got like thousands of sightings and stuff like that he has been over the years. He's researched and looked into and all that, and several books. I mean, Silent Invasion was the one that kind of stuck out to me. I don't know why, but
and I had the opportunity to meet him, and super nice guy. One of the things I like about Stan also is he's not like every report I get is legit and we believe everybody.
Right.
There's a lot of reports where he's like, look, this just doesn't add up. So, you always want to see that skepticism in somebody that you're reading their reports.
Well, I would imagine that with all the things that he's done over the years and all the investigating he's done, he could probably spot kind of a fake one a mile away, I would think. It's
like a police officer that does a lot of interrogations. You get good at it, you start to read people, but I've never had the opportunity to have that conversation with him again. My only interaction with Stan was when I got a book from him and had a real brief conversation just about all the strange things that happen here in PA. Right
on. Right. So do you want to talk about the 73 invasion at this point?
Yeah, let's get into that, because we're talking about UFOs and we're talking about Bigfoot, so I'm sure folks want to know how those two tie together, because this is the only story, the only documentation that I'm aware of that really tries to correlate the two.
Right.
There's tons of Bigfoot reports and Bigfoot, books and documentaries, and then likewise with UFO. But this is one of the few stories that's why I sent you the email. I thought it would be interesting, because this is one of the few times where someone seems to have found a correlation between the two.
Right. Nice. And of course, 1973 is the best year ever.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Some of the best people were born in that year.
Yeah, it is correct. Bam, that's right. Now, I did not see a lot of research on the 73, except a couple of the, he talks about there was a lot of different sightings going on. So can you elaborate on that for me?
Yeah, what I did, I went through and tried to pick out ones that had some detail and some locations, as opposed to, if you go through Silent Invasion, it's case after case after case, but some of them are 2-line reports. So I tried to find some stuff that was a little more interesting that would, generate a little more conversation.
Right on.
So as far as Pennsylvania and Bigfoot, Pennsylvania has a long history with Bigfoot, going back to documented sightings back in the 1800s. In newspapers, you can find reports of things that match up to Bigfoot descriptions. So it's certainly not like 1973 was the first time we started seeing Bigfoot type sightings, which is interesting because Patterson Gimlin was 1969, correct? I believe that's when that footage was.
Yeah.
So that certainly started everybody looking, and the power of suggestion of what you're seeing in the woods. But these sightings go back way before that. So we have these sporadic sightings of these wild men and apes and things like that. And then, of course, in '65, we talked about the crash in Kecksburg. Well, in '73, we start to see, being Pennsylvania and Western PA and the Laurel Ridge, see an explosion in UFO sightings, like multiple UFO sightings in a week. And we also start to see a flurry of Bigfoot sightings. So Stan's organization, Stan is taking these reports, and he's got some people that he's investigating with, and they're documenting these reports, and they start to see a pattern that there'll be a UFO sighting reported, and then very, very quickly there'll be a Bigfoot sighting.
Right.
So '73, as I said, we start to see that correlation. There's a UFO sighting followed by a Bigfoot sighting. So one of the cases that I found that had multiple witnesses and some interesting details was August. So this is August of '73. This is the Laurel Highlands area, the Chestnut Ridge area. There's a mobile home community where one evening residents hear a baby crying outside. So one lady in particular hears it close to her residence. So obviously she thinks somebody's in trouble. She goes outside to investigate why this baby is crying outside. And she exits her mobile home to see an 8-foot tall Bigfoot, typical description Bigfoot creature, running away from her towards the wood line. Well, there's other residents of the mobile home park that see the same thing. So they find scratches on one of the mobile homes that, looks like somebody or something was scratching the mobile home. I believe one report said that another mobile home was picked up, and not picked up like, just the edge of it picked up, and you could see where it had been moved just slightly. And they found footprints, I believe just a couple in one dirt area where they found these large Bigfoot stereotypical footprints. So Stan gets the report, and the residents called the lady that had exited her residence and saw the creature running away from her. She called Stan a couple days later and said, we think maybe, how should I phrase this? They drew attention that they didn't want to from a government agency. And what had happened was the gentleman showed up, just one, not the Men in Black type description.
That's what I thought you were going to say. Men in Black.
No, not that Men in Black description. Just a gentleman in a suit showed up, said he was there to interview them about what had happened. But the residents noticed that his car had Ohio government plates, which they thought was odd. He didn't have a uniform on; he had a suit on. And as he goes out, he's looking at the prints and he's talking with the residents and he's writing things down. A kid takes a Polaroid picture, and the guy snatches the Polaroid picture away from the kid and says that's our picture now, and then promptly kicks the footprints and destroys them.
Wow.
Quickly jumps in his car and is gone. Nobody ever got a name. Nobody knows who this guy was. All they know is a brown car with government plates on it, Ohio government plates. So Stan got this information and he has never been able to figure out who that was, what organization he was from, how he got notified that anything had even happened. So that was kind of bizarre, kind of eerie,
Yeah.
Try to figure out who he was, and nobody was ever able to figure out who he was. So that evidence was destroyed before anybody cast it or anything like that. So then here, still in August, do you have anything you want to talk about with that, Jay?
No, I'm just
Okay.
I'm pondering the fact of why. Okay, let's honestly say it's a government official. Why would they come in and destroy the evidence and take the picture away from the kid? It makes you almost wonder if it's a government experiment that got out and happened to be in that area or something to that effect. My conspiracy mind, murder, thrill, true crime, all kinds of shit that I got going through my head. But that's where my ponder's at on that one, because I didn't read that. I missed that story.
So I kind of wonder, my mind doesn't quickly go to the government experimentation gone wrong. Mine goes more towards that guy not being who he portrayed himself to be.
Right. Yeah.
So that, when he doesn't leave a business card, he doesn't, show ID, he just shows up and starts interviewing, and he looks official, so people are talking with him, and then he promptly destroys everything and leaves. And they said he didn't say, okay, I'll see you later. Like, he jumped in his car and was gone.
Now, does it say, does the boy take a picture of him, or did he take a picture of the footstep? Footprints?
In everything I've been able to read, it said he just took a picture of the footprint.
Gotcha.
And it was, we're talking 73, so it wasn't a digital camera or anything like that. It was the old Polaroid. And I guess from what I can gather from what I've read, is when the Polaroid spit the picture out, he snatched it out of the camera. But what would stop the kid, unless he took the camera as well? What would stop the kid from taking another? Well, other than the fact that he then destroyed the footprints.
Right.
Yeah, I guess there would be no more pictures then.
I'm surprised that they didn't have pictures prior to him showing up, though. I mean, did they give a timeline as far as how soon he got there? Was it relatively quick?
It was a couple days. So, this was obviously not when everybody had a camera in their pocket.
Right.
I'm with you. I would think somebody would take a picture of it, but who knows who had a camera and who didn't. And this kid finally gets there with his Polaroid and takes a picture, and it's quickly snatched away. So no other pictures that I'm aware of or that Stan ever mentioned ever surfaced of those footprints.
Interesting. Very interesting. J-Dub, what do you think of that? I know how much you love the UFO talk.
Aliens. I'm just listening. Just taking it all in.
You're gonna dream about this later tonight.
Yeah.
Peter, is any of the land that all this is happening on, has the government bought it up or anything around your area, or is it still all publicly owned?
So far as I'm aware, it's still all publicly owned. There's still a lot of large areas that are single family owned, like 1,000 acres that are single family owned. So there's still a lot of wooded area that's not, there's no neighborhoods or anything like that. The only other thing I was able to find out about the area is something I didn't know, is the soil and the clay in the Chestnut Ridge area is very rich in limestone. And the only reason I noted that is because you hear so much talk about limestone and running water when it comes to like
Right.
paranormal things.
Mhm.
So I thought that was an interesting thing to note.
That is very true. Well, I asked that question because I've watched a couple shows. I think Oregon area, like there was certain areas where they'd had a lot of things going on with Bigfoot and / aliens, and the government actually bought up the property and, put fence up, and people aren't allowed to go in that area anymore. So
Yeah, I've read some of those stories, which I think are really interesting, like where a hunter comes upon a fence. There's like government officials that say, yeah, you can't come past here.
right.
So that I'm not aware of. I've never read anything about any of those areas in the Chestnut Ridge area. That would certainly be interesting.
Now, are you a hiker? Do you go out and look?
So I do enjoy the outdoors. I'm not necessarily a hiker.
Me neither.
Me neither.
I used to hunt. I don't hunt so much anymore. I spend more time being a dad than I do out
Gotcha.
finding things to do on the weekend. So I still fish as much as I can. I don't really hunt anymore. And the only other thing that draws me into the woods is I'm involved in some ATV and motocross woods racing. So they'll go out and our crews will lay out a 12-mile circuit in the woods. So we'll
nice.
go out into like a 1,200 acre owned area, and the crews will lay out a 10, 12-mile track in the woods. And then my partner and I will go out and pre-ride that to look for, hazards and things where people might get injured. And we had some interesting things doing those pre-rides recently, as recent as 2 weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah. I hate to, I don't want to, get all over the place, but so a couple weeks ago, we were doing a pre-ride on a track in Armstrong County. And as we were riding, I heard right beside me what sounded like somebody threw a log sideways, is the best way I can describe it. Just wood cracking against wood. And as we got to an area where we were going to talk about what we were doing, I said, "Did you hear that back there?" And my partner said, "What?" I said, "It sounded like somebody next to us threw a log sideways through the woods." And he says very matter-of-factly with, "Oh yeah, there's a female Sasquatch out here we've seen twice. I haven't seen her lately." I'm like, "Oh, not
Okay.
yeah." That was it. That was the end of the conversation. He was just very matter-of-fact about it. It wasn't like, "Oh yeah, well guess what?" It was just like, yeah, there's a female Sasquatch we've seen twice. So I'm like, okay. Wow. So we've heard wood knocks. I've never seen anything doing that. I've heard wood knocks. I've heard some, wood cracking, things like that. Enough to keep you interested in the
Right.
So getting back to 1973, we were talking about August of 73. It was when this mobile home park incident happened. But in the same month, still in August of 73, there's a flurry of UFO sightings. But what's interesting is you would think, especially if this was a hoax, people would see the same UFO. Like, yeah, I saw the same thing you saw. But it's not. Everybody's describing like orbs of light, but different colors. Silver craft, but different shapes. So we're seeing all these UFO reports in a flurry in August of 73, but they're of different colors and different shapes and things like that, which is kind of interesting. But so right into September, so August, the Bigfoot sighting happens in the mobile home park. We're seeing all these UFO sightings. We're getting all these Bigfoot reports that are following the UFO sightings. And then in September 3rd, so this is, just right after August into September 3rd, in the Greensburg area, which again is very handy to the Chestnut Ridge area, a large, long UFO is seen only about estimated to be 100 foot off the ground, which, you can't put a lot of stock in that because if you don't know how big the object you're looking at,
right,
how do you know how high it is? But again, this is multiple witnesses that don't know each other that all saw this same UFO that they said looked massive. This large silver elongated UFO is seen. So the witnesses see this thing, and they're estimating it to be 100 foot off the ground. And as they're watching it, it goes from a parallel flight pattern to kind of turning into a vertical flight pattern. And as it turns into a vertical flight pattern, all the power in the area goes out. So they later found that I guess it's at the relay station, power station. Every fuse in that station was blown, and this was really right in the same area that everybody was seeing this craft. And right when it turned vertical, all the power in the area goes out. So I thought, again, that's interesting. And I like the fact that it wasn't one person. It was numerous people, including local law enforcement, that saw this thing.
Right.
So still in September of 73, at the Bell Farm, which is just over the county line, they're seeing multiple UFOs and Bigfoot sightings all in the same area. Like they'll see a UFO, then they see Bigfoot, all in the same area. Multiple different people report in the area of this Bell Farm. So when I said we have a flurry of events, as you can see, like multiple in August, multiple in September. Right after the Bell Farm in September 27th, so now getting towards the end of September, two witnesses report seeing an 8-foot tall Bigfoot running towards the wood line, carrying a glowing orb, which it's the first time I ever heard of something like that. So they report the exact same thing, that there's this 8-foot tall, typical Bigfoot description creature running towards the wood line, carrying a glowing orb in his hands. Later that evening, they get multiple UFO reports of a glowing orb in the sky, the same color as the one that the alleged Bigfoot was carrying, by other people, not related to the ones that saw the 8-foot tall creature.
Right.
Interesting correlation there. Again, I think lends a little bit of credit to the sighting that other people saw the same color orb in the sky that these folks reported seeing being carried by the creature. So that September 27th, that takes us to the end of September. But then in October, we're still having events. In October is probably the most close encounter, if you will, that's reported. And in October of 73, again, towards the county line in that area, there's multiple members of the family that report a big red glowing orb in the sky above their farm, not far above their farm. Again, we get reports that this is like 100 feet off the ground. But this glowing orb, they said, is the size of a barn. So, we're not talking about basketball being carried under somebody's arm. Now we're talking about a red glowing orb the size of a barn. So, again, numerous family members, with houses around the area of the farm, all see this. They congregate, trying to figure out what they're looking at. So the one male member of the farm says, I'm going to hop in my truck and drive towards this and see if I can figure out what it is. So as he drives towards it, the glow from the orb is illuminating the pasture and the wood line. He sees what he describes as two 8-foot tall creatures walking the wood line, not running, just walking the wood line. And as they get to the fence posts of the fence of the pasture, they're stepping over it and continuing to walk, two of them. So he's got a rifle in his truck, and he's got tracer rounds. Now, if you're not familiar what tracer rounds are, is they're not ammo intended. They're not bullets. They're basically like, imagine a Roman candle.
Right.
Just shoot a glowing, almost like a flare.
Right.
So he decides to fire a tracer over their heads. So he fires a tracer over their heads and begins to hear the sound of what he describes to be a turbine. So almost like the engines firing up on this orb. So he describes this loud hum like a turbine sound. And the creature stopped. So he fires another tracer. He figures he got their attention. So he fires another tracer and they begin to walk towards him. And I hope I'm getting this right, because sometimes the stories, you read so many of them.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, they walk towards him, he loads a live round. Because at this point he feels like, all right, I got their attention, but I'm not scaring them. And puts a live round down range. And he feels confident that he hit one of them. But they slowly turn back and walk the other direction. Not run, not fall, just turn back and walk the other direction. The light goes out on the craft and it seems like everything's gone. So again, multiple witnesses corroborating the same story, but no physical evidence that I could find in any of the documentation that, no crop circle or burn marks or anything like that.
That's interesting because I've actually read a couple of different stories, brief stories of. I actually did read that one. That one you just said. There was another one where a woman walked out her front door. I can't remember. She actually had the shotgun in her hand because she'd heard noises, but as soon as she walked out and was on her porch, there was an 8-foot Bigfoot. All the standard description right in front of her porch, and she unloaded that shotgun on him and didn't phase him one bit.
I was trying to, I had heard Stan talk about that case, and I was trying to find the written documentation of it, but that's exactly one of the ones that I wanted to talk about, and I couldn't find the date. And
I knew I'd read it or heard it in an interview or whatever. So,
and there were a lot of details with that I thought lended some credibility. If we're talking about the same one, and I'm sure we are, she had a bag of cans that she was recycling on the front porch, and she heard the cans knocking around, and she thought there was a raccoon or something on the front porch. So that's why she had the shotgun.
Okay.
She goes out front, and as you said, is, confronted by an 8-foot tall creature. And I thought an interesting thing about that one was, if you recall, she said that the eyes were glowing. And yeah, like you said, she unloaded the shotgun and it didn't phase them. And her sons lived down the road and they heard the shotgun shots. So they started towards her place to see what was going on. But
I missed pieces of that story. So it sounds just like the same story, but I didn't get the full the full thing. The glowing eyes sounds familiar. I think I remember that because that's actually turned up in a couple different stories too, with the red glowing eyes.
Now, the one that I talked about with the large orb the size of a barn. So you had read the same report. Did it sound accurate? Did I miss anything or misconstrue anything? Because
I caught the pieces of the tracers and all that. So yeah, I mean, you actually told more of the story that I had read, that I didn't read all of those things. So it was just a more condensed down version that I saw. But yeah, that's exactly what I had heard, was he'd done the 2 tracer rounds and then actually put one, center mass, and nothing happened. I mean, not even flinched, from what I understand.
I mean, I'm sure, again, there's so many accounts of these stories, whether it be verbal in interviews or written in the book. I'm sure there's a detail somewhere that I'm going to, misconstrue or mess up.
Yeah.
I just don't want anybody listening to say, wait, that's not exactly what happened. You read so many of these reports that I'm sure,
and they're all different. They all have different, with them. So nobody's holding you to it.
So let's jump out of 73. Let's go into some more modern of what's going on. In the article that you sent me, the big ride up there with Stan, and I can't think of the guy doing the interview with him. I can't think of his name right off the top of my head, but Stan was actually talking about in there that recent, like in February or May or some April and May. What do you know what year that article was that you sent me?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay. It wasn't 2023 though. I mean, it was like probably what, 2022, 21 or something like that. I don't think it was that old.
I think it was 21.
Okay.
Because if I'm not mistaken, the BFRO website has documented sightings in PA in like 21 and 22.
Right on. It's like I was reading it and I'm like, what? And I kept thinking, I'm in that mindset of this interview just happened. And I'm reading this and I think, no, dummy, this is probably a couple years old. So, but I mean, we are seeing a flurry back in Pennsylvania again within the last 2 or 3 years, correct?
Yeah, so in 2003, we started to have this ramp up of sightings, both, UFO and Bigfoot sightings together. And then it died off again. It seems cyclical. And then, recently we're starting to see some sightings again. Nothing compares to what happened in 73, as you can see, where, just in a little bit of research, you're able to find numerous documented sightings in the same month in the same area. So, we do see, I don't know if we've seen the pattern that we saw in 73, but it does seem to be on the cyclical. So then the question is why? Why is Chestnut Ridge? So we know it's rich in limestone, but that seems pretty thin as to explain what the attraction is. So why did we talk so much about Kecksburg? What's the tie-in between Kecksburg and, other than the fact that they're in the same area? So, you think about what's drawing these alleged UFOs to that Chestnut Ridge area. Are they looking for a downed spacecraft?
Oh,
right.
Is that why? Okay, we see a UFO and then we have Bigfoot sightings. Are they looking for something that crashed? Something of theirs that crashed?
Right.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot. Oh yeah. That would tie everything in.
Right. So Stan's the common thread in the story, right? Because, the Kecksburg thing kind of kicked off his interest. And then in 73, we see these flurry of sightings, which again, isn't far from Kecksburg, but is there something more than Stan that ties those stories together? And, that trying to be analytical and, obviously none of this is factual other than the fact that we have these, reports. We don't know for a fact that Bigfoot exists. We don't know for a fact if it exists, what is it? We don't know for a fact that UFOs are extraterrestrial, but we do know that we're getting all these reports. So people are seeing something. So then the question I have is, okay, we're seeing all these people are seeing stuff in the Chestnut Ridge area. And we also have this major event in Kecksburg. Could they be related? Are they looking for, their crash?
Something in that area. Well, I mean, are they looking for something, or is there something already in the ground that they're trying to get to? And I say that because Skinwalker Ranch, the show seems to really revolve around that magnetic field in the ground as part of the draw for that area.
And then there's also, you read some of these stories that talk about energy mining, where people will happen upon a craft or a site, and there's a theory that these Bigfoot sightings are scaring people away from an area. And there's some talk that, UFOs are energy mining to replenish their energy supplies. And, not to get off on too crazy of a theories, because again, I don't know what to believe. I know I've heard weird things in the woods, and I believe that a lot of people have seen something. The Patterson Gimlet footage is very compelling. Every expert in the world has analyzed that footage and either said it's a hoax, but a lot more have said couldn't have been hoaxed.
Right.
So there's enough things to keep people interested, and I think it's a great topic to discuss. But when I hear these stories, I always look for the why. What could it be? What could be the purpose?
Sorry, I see a dog in the background.
Your puppers moved locations, and I knew as soon as I saw him move that J-Dub was going to be all gushy.
So that's Kimber, and
Aw.
anytime I'm in my office, that's her chair. So when I'm working my chair, Kimber comes down, and that's her chair.
Aw,
That's
cute.
awesome.
She thinks I'm working right now.
So, is there, let's see. Oh gosh, what was I going to say? Is there any tie-in speaking of, Jeremy said Skinwalker Ranch, is there a tie-in any way with Indians in that area?
Well, I don't know as far as tie-in goes, but obviously this area was very rich in Native Americans. The Appalachian Mountains, as well as all the valleys in this area, all had Native American tribes in them. A lot of the areas and towns in this area have Native American heritage in the names. But as far as a tie into them, I've never discovered anything that would tie, other than the fact that Native American heritage is so rich in Sasquatch and Bigfoot type imagery.
Right.
They in things that I've read, they reference it very matter of factly, not as a theory or mystical,
Right.
just very much something that existed.
I'm sure there's a lot of farmland there. Any cow mutilation, anything strange like that when sightings have occurred?
I've never read any reports, and not to say there aren't any, and I'm certainly not an authority on the subject matter. All I know is what I've been able to learn through documentaries and books and such, but I've never read anything or seen anything about cattle mutilations in this area. And we're very, as you said, we're very rich in farmland. I mean, I can look out my window right now and see a herd of cows.
Gotcha.
Yeah, have you been to Pennsylvania?
Mhm.
I mean, it is beautiful out there. My last trip out there, I was for some reason was in the mindset that it was just flat like Indiana and like northern Indiana, and when we got out there, it's like this place is gorgeous. So
It's very, very much not flat.
yeah,
Yeah.
very much not. Yes. So with all of this and the 65 Kecksburg and Roswell and all that, and this new information coming out with some whistle, and I haven't read the whole article, so I don't know a ton about it, but the whistleblower for all of that, do you think that all kind of ties in a little bit too with everything going on?
I think what's interesting is the shift that we've seen in mainstream media from mockery to treating it as actual news, as far as some of the declassified stuff. Just recently, I just saw last weekend, I didn't get a chance to read everything on it, but there was an event out in the Las Vegas area. Did you see that?
Yep.
So, and they didn't treat that as a kook. They treated that as, hey, this is something that's really interesting. There's some accredited reports of this sighting, and they talked about it as news and not as a joke. So that's not how it always was.
Right.
So it's almost like they're easing us into something. It's almost like, all right, here's some declassified stuff from the Air Force, which is really interesting, especially if you listen to any of the interviews from that pilot. very interesting. And talking about these, underwater unidentified things that the military has cited. And they're giving us these little bites and treating it as actual news. I just wonder if maybe they're easing us into more information. And again, not to be conspiracy theorist,
Right.
but I also know that there's some method to media.
I think we all have to have some kind of conspiracy theory, because I think at this point, you've gotta be throwing out your own thoughts and your thought process to why all this stuff happens the way it does. And why not? I've been a firm believer for a long, long time that if we think that we're the only intelligent life in this universe, then we have another thing coming. And that, UFOs and aliens are 100% real. I can't even imagine there not being intelligent life out there. I don't know why they would come here. I like the energy idea. We just seem to be stepping on our own toes most of the time around here, but I don't know what they would come here to learn, but maybe they're learning what not to do. I don't know, but
yeah, maybe we're a good example of a bad example.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my thought would be that maybe they were here first and they're coming back to get something, like I said, that's in the earth that they had left a long time ago.
And boy, there's a lot of interesting artifacts that would certainly speak to that theory that they were here a long time
ago. Yes.
The artifacts that they found that mimic a helmet, a removable space helmet, and there's a lot of interesting things that would kind of speak to extraterrestrials being here before us, or even instigating us.
Right.
But as Jay said, even if you wanted to say, okay, we're the only life in this universe, there's infinite numbers of universes.
Right.
So when you talk about infinite, like, how could there not be? How could there not be?
Yeah.
And then people say, well, it's impossible for them to get from universe to visit us. But then we talk about dimensional, and we talk about time being relevant, time and space, and there being more than 3 dimensions and being able to slip. There's just, we don't know what we don't know, right?
Right.
100%, because we take in the Star Wars universe or the Star Trek universe, or even the Guardians of the Galaxy, and the way that the filmmakers and the writers portray time, travel to all these universes. Who's to say that that's, just because we don't know how to do it doesn't mean that somebody out there doesn't know how to do it and can be able to jump from, millions and millions of light years away to here in, a matter of a couple hours, like we would drive to Warsaw or Fort Wayne, so, I mean, the possibilities are so great. And that's what I love about conspiracy theories and all this stuff that go on like that there's so much out there that we don't know. And there's so much we could actually sit down and think about. And I loved reading up on Stan a lot, because he talked about a lot of different things, not just big spacecrafts, but like mini crafts, and how that these are coming within feet of people and stuff like that.
Yeah, I forgot about those. Those are interesting interviews as too. The micro things that have been reported, and the rods, the phenomena of the rods is very interesting as well.
Yeah.
And to the people that say, none of that's real, UFOs aren't real, Bigfoot's not real. Okay, but it's still fun to sit around the fire and talk about it, isn't it? Talk about these theories. And I certainly, I'm with J-Dub. I certainly don't want to think that there's a real possibility of waking up and seeing an alien at the foot of my
bed. No.
But do I think, there's something that flew over that doesn't look like anything that we know what it is? Yeah, so we don't know what it is. So let's just come up with theories.
Right.
We don't know what's real, what's not real. Is it possible, is my question. People say, well, Bigfoot's not real. It's a lot easier to prove something's real than to prove it's not real. Proving absence is pretty difficult,
Right.
especially when you have people that live in neighborhoods and bedroom communities that say, well, we would have found it by now. There's not as you don't realize how much deep woods we have in the US that is incredibly remote that nobody's at.
Right. Yep.
So proving the absence is pretty impossible. It's like UFOs. Proving the absence of intelligent life other than us is impossible. So then why can't we just talk about theories of what might there be?
Yes, 100%. Yes, I love that. We should talk about this more, J-Dub. More about
I'm
aliens.
there, but they can stay away from me.
J-Dub looks like she wants to be anywhere else right now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
They're cute, like
Mhm.
puppies, and maybe you never know. It's
E.T. wasn't scary.
no.
He was when I was little. Yeah, his little sausage fingers and everything.
Wow.
That part when he's dying and he's all white. Oh, I can't even watch that now. It creeps me out. Mm-mm.
I'm just thinking about getting a big giant blow up alien doll and having Sean put it at the end of the bed.
Oh my God.
Shots fired.
Yeah, my house. Yeah, I would unload a clip in that thing.
Oh, that's great.
So, do you tend to watch the night sky? Do you go out and just sit and watch?
I do. We live in an area where there's a little bit of light contamination, but in the evenings, especially in the summertime, I don't like being cold, so not so much in the fall. But when it gets to be really nice out, Kimber and I like to go sit on the back deck and have a fire and just kind of chill, put a little music on, and just see what's up there.
Gotcha.
I won't be looking in the skies on my drive home. Or when I go out and take care of my animals, I'm not looking up, I'm looking down.
Now that's my wife works night turn, so that's why it's Kimber and I, and the kids aren't real into it, but she'll be coming off nights permanently here next month, so we're real excited about that. But she does not share she'll come out and sit with me and look at the fire while I look up. She does not subscribe to any of my theories about Bigfoot or UFO or ghosts. I just find it interesting because it's something that we don't know everything about.
Right.
I would much rather watch a documentary about paranormal stuff and at the end of it go, that's BS.
Yeah.
Or boy, that gives you something to think about,
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I just find it interesting. I'm not here to argue with anybody and say ghosts exist. I mean, I certainly have my share of stories. I can't tell you Bigfoot exists. I can tell you I saw something cross the road one time on two legs in the deep woods and it wasn't a bear. Can I tell you it was Bigfoot? No. But something in the corner of my eye cleared the road in 2 steps.
Wow.
Could it have been a shadow? I don't know. All I can tell you is saw something weird. Heard something weird in the woods last weekend. So I just find it interesting to talk about. How long can we talk about the weather or the last episode of Survivor?
Right.
We should not talk about Survivor at all. I mean, let's be honest here. No.
Okay.
I find this more interesting because I like to hear other people's theories, and the whole discussion of interdimensional stuff is very interesting, and the time-space relativity.
I have done the layout in the backyard when we had the trampoline out there, and just lay there, with all the outside house lights off and just stare at the beautiful stars up there. And if you look and focus, you can actually see some pretty interesting things go floating across the sky. Now, for me, I'm almost 100% sure it was a satellite because of the way, into the gravitational way it was flipping through. But, it wasn't anything extraordinary. But me and Bobbi had an experience one night where we were sitting out on the step in the front of the house, and we're both looking straight ahead, and we're looking at this star, and all of a sudden it just went poof.
It burned out right in front of us.
Yeah.
Crazy. Crazy.
It's the craziest thing I ever seen.
But yeah, I do look at the sky a lot, and I just like last night, it's like, what the hell was that? I mean, you don't know if your eyes are playing tricks on you or if you actually seen something. But yeah,
I can remember twice in my life where I looked at something and literally said, wow, out loud. One was at night when I rounded the corner in Manhattan and saw Times Square for the first time.
Oh yeah.
Like, wow, that's pretty overwhelming. And the other time was when I was at camp on a clear summer night and had no light contamination. I looked up and you could actually see the swirls of the galaxy. That just blew my mind. Like,
oh yeah,
like you see that in movies, not in real life. And to look up and see that the actual swirls of the galaxy was amazing. So yeah, you look up at that and go, how can we think that we're it?
right.
Are we the pinnacle of existence?
God, hope not.
I look forward to meeting an extraterrestrial. I'm looking right at you right now too. I look forward to that, but I hope that it's you can't see her. She's flipping me the bird right now.
Sorry.
I just hope we make it a good experience, and it's not something that turns bad.
I can't say I share your enthusiasm on that one.
No,
I would much rather cross paths with a large hairy creature that wants to scare me away or run away than I would an extraterrestrial that I don't know their intentions. I don't know their capabilities. I don't like not being in control of my situation. And I think I would have the ability to run away from Bigfoot, or he would run away from me, as opposed to an extraterrestrial that may, I don't know. I don't know.
I know.
I'll let you take the lead on that one.
I got you, man. I got you back. No,
I don't like it.
What are you kidding me? I'll run like a little girl. You guys have any other questions for Peter?
I don't.
J-Dub, your face right now, hon, this is remarkable. She is on alien watch right now.
She believes.
She does.
Yes.
Well, you said that you back at the old house one night that a red orb was over the property, right?
Yeah, we had a red orb, and it came across the sky and then it stopped. And then I was like, what is that? And then all of a sudden it was like, gone. And then like 10 minutes later, another one came across the sky and it dropped and it hovered over our house and then it was gone. And I cried. I cried. Literally cried.
We don't want you to cry tonight. We're not trying to make you cry.
Well, you gave me the goosebumps talking about it. But yeah, and it doesn't help that, my husband's like, oh, the aliens, they come and they visit you every night. Shut up. Oh, and another thing that happened at my old house was we had a big field next door, and all of a sudden the whole house was like white, bright light white. There was a helicopter next door. They were looking for somebody.
They were looking for your.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That's scarier than aliens.
Oh my God. I think I had to change the bed sheets after that night.
Oh my. Well, Peter, thank you so much, man. Like I said, it's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you for being a TUSOP listener, and even more thank you for coming on and sharing the Pennsylvania story with us, man. We appreciate it so much.
I certainly hope there's something you can salvage out of all that rambling.
So. Oh no,
I know it's good. It's interesting.
I don't know if you watched me, but you had me the whole entire time. You Jerry Maguire'd me, man. You Jerry Maguire'd me.
Yeah, you had me rocking really fast. That's what I do when I get nervous. I rock really fast.
I almost felt bad every time I look at J-Dub. She had to look like you have when you're in the dentist waiting room. Like, is this over yet? Is this over yet?
Oh, that's it. She has the same look at work when I see her. Is it over yet? Is it over yet?
Yeah, I quit. I give up.
Well, after listening to you guys for so long, it's really cool to put faces with the names now.
You're hiding behind your mic.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's always cool to meet people that you listen to. Like I said, I've shared that story of meeting Gunner's classmate at Ball State after watching all the videos and stuff that they had done through all that, and then to actually meet him, it was almost like meeting a movie star. And I can only imagine if you just listen, because we don't do video. We probably will for that. Is this going to be okay to put up on our YouTube just like this?
If you want to scare people with this mug,
I want everybody to see J-Dub's face the entire time that you're talking about aliens. Oh, that's great. I love it. All right, Peter, once again, thank you. And we are going to get out of here. What we're going to do now is J-Dub's going to put the spots in. No socials? No.
buy our merch.
Thank you.
Do so good. You do
I'm-
so good. I'm
You do
sorry.
really good.
I've been practicing it. I look in the mirror and do it. That's what I do.
But every
That's
time
true.
you do it, I'm just like,
Well, thank you so much for listening to the United States of Paranormal. If you have a story like Peter, he reached out, and I love this story. I did some research it, but I'd love to listen to him tell it. It was so much better than if I would have done it. Reach out to us, the United States of Paranormal @gmail.com, or you can go check out the website, United States of Paranormal.com. We got new pictures coming. I saw the sneak peek. If they ain't already up, yeah. There's a great one of J-Dub showing off that cast like a badass mamma jamma.
You can fight the aliens off.
Listen. Of course, the merch store is on there. We have I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but we have a new character coming to the United States of Paranormal. I'm super excited about it. It is going to be the next big cryptid. That's all I'll tell you. So if you listened in the past, you probably know what I'm talking about. But new art is on the way. I've got the sneak peek of it. It is awesome. And if you like us, go to Spotify and give us a rate. Apple, you can rate and review. That would be great. I check on the reviews all the time, and I love going and reading whether we suck or whether we're good. I mean, I can take either or. I just want to know what's going to make us better, and if you like what we're doing. So please get out there, rate, review, or email us. I love them all. If you liked the United States of Paranormal, I don't know why I can't see the rocker chick. All you can see is you. If you like the United States of Paranormal, maybe you'll like something else in the Golden Mojo Entertainment Empire. You got the Call Guys. You've got that other one. What do I call it? Golden Image Podcast. You got Double Dose on Thursdays with the Indiana Chiefs fans and the brand new Golden 80s. And, why not have a double dose on Friday with the Murd Nerds or a quart of books and booze? All can be found at your favorite streaming site. Promise. Even if it's a typo in some of the shit that I do. You gotta love me. I'm human. Or am I?
Definitely.
I hope not.
So thank you everybody for listening. Peter, once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity. It was wonderful.
We'll have to do this again.
Sure.
All right, guys. See you on the other side.
Bye.
To support other Golden Mojo Entertainment productions, check out Golden Image Podcast, The Call Guys, and Murd Nerds wherever you enjoy listening to podcasts. To see photos and find new episodes of the United States of Paranormal, follow us on our social media, Twitter @TUSOP_POD, or Instagram @the United States of Paranormal, and Facebook, the United States of Paranormal. If you have a place that you'd like us to look into, or would like to share your spooky story that we can read on the air, please email us at theunitedstatesofparanormal@gmail.com.